Oh, dip. Here we are. Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. And there's only two of us here. Hey,
There's only
Caleb.
two of us. How's it going, man?
That's going all right. I'm here, and we so far have not seen a civil war break out. So, and to make my day just that much better, the first chat comes in from the Grumpy Penguin. What car have you been working on, sir? I'd be interested to hear about that. And I don't think either of us promoted this, so I'll be lucky if we get 10 or 15 people in here. But
I just
here we
tweeted
are.
it.
Thank you.
Live now.
So, big day in this country, at least. We had an inauguration, which I didn't see. I was working. We had one president leave and one president arrive. And that's kind of how it happens on January 20th every 4 years, unless that president stays.
Usually in a slightly more friendly manner. But,
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
amateur hour.
Oh, 68 Datsun Roadster. Engine swap. Very nice. Very nice.
Delicious.
Good job, Grumpy. Yeah. This is Cameron Flask, where we just chat about gear, not politics, and we talk about food, and we talk about the things that we're interested in. And every week it is here on this channel, the C47, at 3 p.m. Pacific time, with myself, Caleb Pike, and the missing in action, Ben Barden, who is this week, suddenly, and unbeknownst to me, in the United Kingdom. So I think he's just, as they say in the UK, knackered and sorting things out, and is starting up at some ungodly hour tomorrow morning. And on top of that, has just absolute crap for internet connectivity. So it seemed like it made sense for him to come back next week. Andres, hey, Camille, Grumpy Penguin's videos will be out soon. Yeah. Let's talk about what we're drinking. What are you having today, Caleb?
I'm being born. I'm gonna call or pull a Ben on us.
Yeah.
This is essentially my grandfather's decanter, if you will. So we're just doing a repeat of last time I was on. Oh, face needs to be blocked. Rocktown Brown.
Nice.
Another delicious brown ale, kind of nutty, roasty.
Nothing wrong with that. Nice.
Yeah.
What's up, Ryan?
One of my favorites.
Grip
tips. What's going on,
you
dude?
Sent something out
Ryan,
to me.
welcome.
I accepted something that you sent to me. I can't even remember what it was. I think it was on the LinkedIn's or something. What's going on? What just happened? Something showed up at the bottom. Oh, Camille. Come on for the booze. Love it. Thanks, Camille. I'm having a 2014, not one iota. It's basically a Pinot Noir. So wow. I'm finishing it up. I basically poured it, give it a little bit of air. I've got one more glass. And there we go. Cheers.
Cheers
to everybody.
Everyone in the chat. Thanks
to
for
another day.
By.
Yeah. Here we go. We're friends on Facebook, so let's play Farmville. Beautiful. Yeah.
Farmville. Nice. Is that still a thing?
I don't know. It might be. Have a Shiner holiday cheer. Having a Shiner holiday cheer. So Shinerbach, I guess, is that their holiday version? I don't know. All right. So Caleb, what have you been up to this week? What's been on the agenda in the studio? Have you what's been going on?
Yeah. So I haven't actually. The last video I did, I feel like it was forever ago. I think it's first week of January. But I haven't touched anything video-y related or filmed anything. But I've been doing a lot of infrastructure. So it started out as infrastructure week. Yeah. Now it's infrastructure week 2.5. So just a lot of stuff. There's, how it is. And I'm sure everyone here can relate. you're doing your job, whatever that is, and you don't have time to deal with all the little stuff that piles up. And you just kind of get into, keep the engine running, but you're not waxing the car, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
It's a weird analogy, but hopefully it makes sense.
Yep.
So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take at least a week and deal with all that stuff. So I texted Jen before the show. I put together like a rolling cart that holds all my stands.
Looks great.
Put up a pegboard wall for all the cables in the studio that are longer than like a meter.
Yep.
So we have one place we go to for cables because I just am so sick of bins and bins of cables. You end up pulling them all out. They all get tangled when you're trying to find, a 2-meter Thunderbolt.
Right here in this drawer. It's a mess. Yes.
Yeah, so all of that, reorganizing, rethinking, and then kind of what we talked about in a previous video, thinking more like taking the ideas and concepts from lean manufacturing and applying that to the studio. So I built a little cart. I found a cart on Amazon, which sucks it's not available anymore already. But it's like a 4-shelf cart with casters and ways to attach stuff. So I built a bunch of little things to hold, tape, utility blade, measuring tape, different Sharpies, Allen key sets, just everything I would need when shooting B-roll. And then it's on a cart right next to me. It's got a light meter, aperture remote, batteries, cards, everything. So once I go over there and start filming, I shouldn't have to leave and go grab all that crap that we end up grabbing.
That's
and it all has a home. Because the other thing I hate is after I'm done shooting, there's usually just piles of stuff wherever I was filming.
My life.
Anyone who's done tabletop, it just clogs everything up. So that's what I've been doing for the last however long, week and a half at least. It feels great. It feels kind of bad. I feel bad that I'm just kind of letting the channel go on ice there. But
that's not really, when you organize and you do stuff like that, I think that goes in cycles. It helps.
And some of that stuff
like
has been I've wanted to do for like years, like that stupid cart, So yeah, it feels good.
And are you going to do multiple of those carts? Are you going to just do the one and let that one roll?
I think I might just do the one. I'll probably have the same idea for the other spaces, the other like the top-down setup and all that, but it's a smaller. I have one tiny room, even smaller than this room, that is just top-down. So I could probably build a little thing on the side of the bench that I use to work there, with the same idea. But the cart's good because that B-roll area is a pretty large square footage. I want to say it's like 500 to 700 square feet.
Pretty big.
So it's, the setup moves depending on what I'm filming. So the cart comes in handy.
Nice. Yeah, I use some of those 3-shelf Olympia carts. They're usually about $70 or $80 each. They fold. So if you take them somewhere, they're really easy to put in the car. It's almost like folding a ladder. And then they open up. And I have 3 or 4 of those. And those are very, very useful. But for me, it's really starting to figure out. Grumpy Penguin, by the way, would love to see an updated shop tour when you're all done.
Nice. Yeah.
For me, it's really a couple of things. The first one is that there really is starting to be progress on the barn now. So if anybody's been following the channel for any period of time, a lot of stuff has been done out in that barn, but it's an uninsulated, completely raw, essentially agricultural barn. It's huge. It's 3,600 square feet, 1,800 and 1,800, but it's not a space that you can work in effectively day in and day out, all hours of the day, because it just won't hold heat. It won't hold cold when you need either or to get the temperature to where it needs to be. So what we're doing is we're building a wall to create about an 1,100 square foot space. But because it's an ag barn, or what's commonly called a pole barn, there are essentially poles or supports that are coming up in the middle of the space, which are obviously load bearing. So the big thing has been to bring in a 30-foot wide beam, which is probably 2.5 feet in. It's at least 2 feet in depth, coming from the ceiling. So it's humongous. I mean, I can't even imagine what it weighs. And that's in now. So those vertical supports are gone. So now it's just going to be one big open space. And then the next thing to do is to remove two overhead doors, huge 10-foot high by about 12-foot wide doors. And there's two of those in that space. And, you know, they have the advantage of if you open them, it's easy to get things in and out of the space. But the reality is, you know, when it starts to get windy or anything, they start to rattle and it doesn't make for a good production space. So that side of the building's going to get replaced with some 4-foot by 4-foot windows that I'm going to have to, obviously, they're double pane and they're going to have to get, you know, some sort of soundproofing when I'm shooting there. But I wanted to have the ability to have some natural light coming into the space, because you don't always want to shoot with lights coming off of a grid or off of light stands. It's south facing, which is at least better than west or east. You know, I'd love the windows to be on the north side, but you can't. It's just not. Doesn't make sense for the building. So that's kind of the big project in terms of building out the space, and I think I'm probably about a month away from showing people a more raw space, and then I'm going to start to build it out with a grid and things like that. And that'll be the space I work in every day. So I'll go out there and it'll be insulated and I'll be able to heat it and cool it. I think I'm going to do a ductless mini split system, which is very popular in Europe. You don't see them as much here. So there'll be one 24,000 BTU unit up on the wall, and that's the right size to heat and cool about a space that big, about 1,000 square feet. And you know, it'll just be building and building and building over time. But this is the big part of the project. So I've been doing that, and then continuing to do work for that client I have, and a lot of that is really, you know, a lot of directing over Zoom. I've upgraded my teleprompter to be larger now. I've upgraded, you know, my screen here to be larger, so it's a lot easier to work. When people bring things up, I can read them on the screen now. Before, I had a really tiny teleprompter. So those are the things that I've been working out, and there you go.
Nice. More people in the chat. Welcome, Andre, Sam, Bill, David, Camille, sorry, here, Baron, JB, Pat, and Roz just dropping in. Jake, and Jake says, I built similar cart with a light on a mic, the top shelf, product B-roll, second shelf being battery hub for my cameras and lights. Nice. And thank you for the kind words, JB. That means a lot. So are you going to document this or even do like iPhone updates or something here on YouTube?
I hope so. I mean, the funny thing is right now,
kind of fun.
It would. I mean,
troubleshooting as you work your way through this.
You know, I have kind of this weird situation, which is for 6 or 7 months I didn't work because of the pandemic, and then this client came in September into October, and I've just been working all the time, which is great.
Yeah.
But it makes it really hard to reset because I'm getting up at 6 in the morning and then going to Zoom and then working, and then it usually goes until, you know, 6 o'clock at night, and you know, and at that point in time, you're baked. You just, and then you're like, the thought of going to set up a camera or going to shoot something, it's the last thing you want to do. Really, all you want to do is eat some food, sit down, and just watch something that's mindless, and then rinse and repeat. So I would love to do some stuff. It's still not at the place where I'm ready to start showing things, but I do think in the next few weeks, once the main part of it's done, when the windows are in, then you can kind of get a sense of what the space is. I think I'll shoot a video then, and then I'd like to document some of the things that I'm doing in the space, in terms of building the grid and you know, that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see if it's a multi-part series or if it winds up being something where I just do, similarly to you, where you kind of get a whole bunch of stuff into place and then you take people on a tour of what's been done. So you break it down. So I probably should take a few more photographs during the process, which would be great to show in an episode or two. But really, I just need a working space, and it's becoming harder and harder with all of this, pandemic Zoom school stuff with, a daughter in college who's doing Zoom here in the house and a 12-year-old doing it. And, my wife and I are running the business and we have 2 dogs. It just gets loud in here and it's just hard to get things done. So it's not fun when you have to mute and then you have to go and scream. Shut up, I'm on a Zoom call. So yeah, there you go. So I'm excited about it. I mean, it's definitely a next chapter. I just feel from an energy standpoint, I mean, here we are, it's 3:15. I started up at a stage in Florida at like 6:30 in the morning. So you're just going and you don't stop. So what's nice about Wednesday is everybody knows, including the client, that from about 2 o'clock until the end of the day, I'm really not available. So that's great because it gives me this little break. But I do sometimes find, like today, that I'm pretty exhausted. So your energy level kind of, isn't necessarily where you want it to be. But I'm super excited. Again, I feel very grateful that I'm working and that I can start to put some work into that barn. And your space is coming along really nicely too, and you have, a lot of space to work with. Do you think the decision to, expand your space was, in hindsight, a good decision? Does it give you a lot more freedom? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For the first time having dedicated spaces, I never before had a room just for streaming. And even though I haven't streamed in forever on my channel, either doing this or removing barriers, right? Like even in my garage, like doing this woodworking project, you got to pull the van out of the garage. You got to pull the table saw out of the corner, plug it in, move a bunch of stuff around, go to Lowe's, get the wood, bring it back, cut it. Now the garage is sawdusty and the wife, wants her van back in the car or in the garage. Yeah. Vacuum it all up, put it all away, or keep the van out and the freezing doors freeze shut because it's a winter tundra here.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of barriers. So in the studio, it's the same thing. Like if you do this full time, it's there's less giddiness when you need to go pick up the camera and film something.
Yeah.
And so if you can remove as many of those barriers as possible, just makes things much smoother. And I've always had spaces where everything's combined. I mean, I started in an apartment, where I slept is where I filmed. Like it is set up every single time, and so it's nice to finally have dedicated space or spaces to really get everything set up and spread out.
Yeah, I think it's
let me turn off my server so I can actually record my own audio because it's in the same room or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. I mean, I think now, especially when you talk about building remote studios, and it's not unique to people like all of us who are here in the chat and people that we know. It's, yesterday I was on a Zoom call with somebody who works for a company that's a IT, whatever it is, data man. I don't know what the hell they do, but they do something, and basically, they have one person there who wants to do a weekly chat with their IT people, but they want it to be very, David would like this, but it's basically he's going to have a drink and he's going to have a conversation with them, and it's going to be very informal. And they're setting up. I was, at his home doing a scout in Florida over Zoom, and he has 3 or 4 different rooms that he could potentially use. We picked the room that would probably make the most sense to build out a remote studio, about an 11 by 13 room. It's got 2 windows. So we just talked it all out, and eventually, within a week or two, he's going to have a 13-foot by 7.5-foot green screen. He's going to have a setup like this with a mirrorless camera. He's going to have a teleprompter, and he's going to be hooked into Zoom. And what they're going to do is they're going to record his side to camera and green screen, and the client who brought me on is going to build a customized background for stuff. You're seeing the flickering, JB, probably because the AF system is just wigging out. So I don't know what to say about that. It's just BS. Maybe when Fujifilm does their event on the 27th of this month, they'll actually do an upgraded AF system on their cameras. Who knows? But basically, they're building a remote studio, and I think that one of the biggest pieces of advice that you can give people is try to find a space that you can dedicate to whatever it is that you're doing that relates to production, because setting up and breaking down every single time is just maddening. It makes you not want to do it. I mean, even in an 11 by 11 room that I'm in right now, this space is essentially now off limits for everybody in the house, because I can just walk into this space anytime and use it. And of course, having a bigger space like you have right now, or what I'll have in the barn, gives you the opportunity to have standing sets. And it's so much easier to do production when all you have to do is come into a space and flick a switch and turn on a camera and just start rolling. And that's so hard to do in a lot of the spaces that people work out of. So,
yeah, definitely. Ryan says he can't. Ryan Timms can't wait to see setups for both of us. Checked out your channel, Ryan. Keep up the good work.
Yep.
Slash, I noticed that your last video was 8 months ago, but I just snooped you a little bit. Love the stuff on there. Cool. Jem is indisposed. Dealing with some item.
Here. I'm just trying
He's
to
here.
handle the stupid AF thing and see if I can get it.
No sweat. The autofocus can't take it anymore.
I don't know.
What are you all working on in the chat? Let us know, or what you guys want to talk about. We've been doing these kind of random chats for a while. We really haven't had a topic. I don't think anyone felt like really talking about camera news and challenges. I feel like we milked that cow.
Yeah, we definitely did.
And if you guys have recommendations, please let us know.
Yeah, for me personally, it's there's so much other stuff going on, and I'm not just talking about work.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about in the world, that it just felt like it wasn't as important to put ourselves through that. And I just need a time every week where I can think about things, but I don't want to have to prepare for those things because of that crap, like Cujo over here. And I'm doing the new shooter thing every week, so I do have to prepare for that, and that can actually, do that. I don't leave it on manual focus because I'm shooting it like an F2. I don't want to have to deal with it, David. So, I don't know. I just like that we get to come in every week and we just get to chat about stuff, and that we do get to put attention on the chat and what people want to talk about. Baron's been up to his ears on music projects. Great to kick back and talk tech as a distraction. So, yeah, that's it right there. It's just, we just talk about whatever we want to talk about. And I'm sure we will find some times, especially as things change, where we'll want to focus on some particular things. But it just didn't seem that that important, if that makes sense.
When the Capitol's building, it's kind of weird to be like, new camera challenge.
Yeah, exactly. People, yeah. Baron's looking forward to the Silicon 16-inch MacBook Pro. So am I. I hope it comes to market like later in the year, so I really have an excuse to say, Jess, you can have my 16-inch MacBook Pro that I got a year and a half ago as opposed to 6 months ago. But based on everything I've seen, that is definitely in my future. Andre's debating whether to buy the C70 or Komodo for new projects coming. To me, that's driven really by the type of work that you're doing. Both of those cameras are going to produce an amazing image, but the workflow is going to be totally different. And I think the first question you have to ask yourself whenever you're buying a digital cinema camera right now is how important is autofocus to you, potentially for the type of work you do. And I think that's a first question for a lot of people and should be a first question. If the answer is it's not important to me at all, then you start to look at something like the Komodo very differently. If it is important to you, even to some degree, then I'm not looking at the Komodo. And then you have to think about workflow. But I love, I love the kind of stuff that I'm seeing from Red right now. But it's still not the right camera for me. Feelings, Caleb, with that smirk?
Oh, the
what
Komodo?
Do you think? Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great,
No.
but, and
I was tempted to get one, but it's just not, doesn't make sense, really.
Yeah. And the FX6...
I'm still not...
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, man. I still haven't found the camera I'm happy with. A7S is just poopy enough with the color, even though everyone was like, it's the best. But I think that's just mainly Sony people, which it is the best if you're coming from an A7 III.
Sure.
But it's kind of poop with the color still. Panasonic S1 still my baby for the main talking head, but we don't need to get into the whole autofocus thing there.
No.
I actually just emailed somebody today. Someone's like, what camera should I buy? And I've been replying to most of those with like, well, here's the lay of the land. Canon, gorgeous color, newest stuff, overheating, overall, like especially the EOS R, resolution doesn't hold up to the other stuff. And then you've got Sony, which is like, oh my goodness, 6K and a 4K downscale, autofocus incredible, lens selection better than it's ever been. Color's just still not there, even with their newest stuff. Yeah. Panasonic, great stabilization, great color in my opinion. My favorite log mirrorless camera right now is still Panasonic. But autofocus, forget it. Lens selection, terrible.
Yep.
On the full frame stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got Fuji, which is as awkward. Like, I appreciate it as a shooter, but the autofocus is still wiggy. You can't rely on it like you can Canon or Sony.
Yep.
And it's not full frame. So we're still in this realm. Even though everything's getting better, we're still in this weird realm where there's no one camera. I think if Panasonic gave me good autofocus, I'd be happy. I could deal with the lack of lenses.
Yep.
And I can move on with my life.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen. I mean, not by tomorrow. Kit says, I'm sorry, Kurt. I was here first. Your name is too close to mine, and you'll have to find another drinking hangout YouTube chat to frequent. Love it. But you're welcome here, Kurt, but I like that a lot.
Getting Kurt Kohler and Kohler.
Yeah, he's not leaving.
Wow.
Kohler.
Yeah, I know.
Kit Kohler and Kurt Kohler.
Kohler.
Digital filmmakers coming down from obviously another planet or from outer space, and they're saying greetings, Earthlings. Well, greetings, Slavic. So I will say this: one of the things that we've been doing is kind of equalizing the client, and a lot of people would disagree with this, but I think it's been a good choice for this particular client in terms of price point and overall feature set. We have been setting up, and largely with manual focus, we've been setting up remote studio spaces for this client of mine using the XT4. And this new project that we're working on is a big project. It's lots of stuff that's being done with a puppeteer in this stage in Florida. And then a lot of the stuff we have to shoot that matches up with that is with like kids who are on the other side of the frame but have to look like they're in the same exact space as the puppet. So they interact with each other, but they're shot in completely different spaces. And we've done a lot of these now, and they're really hard because you have to work out eye lines and you have to work out continuity things where a thing gets placed on the table and then the puppet has to come over, and sometimes it's in the puppet space and sometimes it's in the kid space. So it's like we're pulling up reference, right? It's really hard. But
lighting
what's
has
really
to be a nightmare too.
Nightmare. Pretty simple approach to lighting where we're basically cross keying in soft boxes, but Now that I'm directing the puppet side of these this season, we're actually going to set up the lighting so that it's basically dumbed down to the remote studios. It's still going to be really nice, it's going to be the correct lighting for the green screen setup, but we're going to make sure that the talent has the same lights that the studio has, and the lights can come from the same place. So we take measurements and height and distance and all that kind of stuff. But what's really interesting is because we decided to go with XT4 in the studio this time, last time they shot with the FS7, we started doing tests with internal recording with the XT4 and external recording to the Ninja 5. Obviously, to the Ninja 5, you're going ProRes, right? And then internally, you're using a 10-bit 420 H.265 codec, and you can either shoot at 100, 200, or 400 megabits per second in that camera in long GOP, or you can switch to all-I, but when you're in all-I, you're forced to just be at 400 megabits per second. Well, obviously, from a data rate standpoint, you might as well go with the Ninja 5 if you're shooting at 400 megabits per second. But what's really interesting is we're seeing virtually no difference when we're pulling everything in and pulling keys and doing stuff in After Effects and Premiere Pro between the 100 and the 200 and the 400 internally. And then we're also turning on something called interframe noise reduction for 4K, and it's reducing the noise considerably because the FS7 natively is cleaner in terms of noise. And then we're finding a sweet spot. We're finding when we hit 2000 ISO on the XT4, we definitely notice more noise. So anything below that, 1600, 1250 is cleaner. So what we've settled on, and by the way, almost no difference doing the test with ProRes LT and pulling keys and noise levels to the Ninja 5. So we're actually going to record internally at 100 megabits per second in long GOP, and we've turned on the interframe noise reduction, and we've also turned on high ISO noise reduction to +2, and it seems to be negligible compared to going to the Ninja 5.
And
Which
look
is
at you,
really,
Mister. Oh, I gotta have my high data rates, and I've felt the inner smirk when I'm like, yeah, I shoot at
I know,
150 megabits. Now
amazing.
you're like, it's better than, or it's just the same
Well,
as
yeah.
LT.
It's long GOP, but it's very interesting to find that, which in the end is a godsend because we can set up all the remote studios at 100 megabits per second. We can set up the studio at 100 megabits per second, so the footprint is much smaller. We would have easily gone to the Ninja 5 if going to 422 was a huge jump in quality, but it wasn't a huge jump in quality. And I will say that Fuji does color well. We're using the neg high in there, and it looks really good. It looks very true, and we're not using autofocus. We're actually using, in the studio, we're using the MKX lenses, the 18 to 55 and the 50 to 135. So those are the two lenses that we're using for all of those shoots. So pretty remarkable, learning a lot, shooting lots of tests, having, post people check everything, and it's pretty surprising. It doesn't mean that it comes close to a higher-end digital cinema camera. You're clearly going to be better off with a C70, but you just can't put C70s everywhere. And you can get an XT4 with a great lens for a couple of $1,000s. So it's pretty interesting to see how all that's playing out. Harrison, what's the best addition you have made to your studio? Sorry if you already talked about it. I was late to the show. I mean, I don't know if there's a one thing. I think that for me, if you're building a studio space, a couple of things that are really advantageous are having a grid, if you can, come off the ceiling, because that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of lighting. It's not always what you need. But the other thing to look at are auto poles, and using those without having to put light stands down. I mean, right now, this year, it's clearly a standing desk and having an all-in-one system, and I know you've created a lot of videos about that, one desk solution and stuff, but that makes life a lot easier for me personally.
And I would go against your grid situation. I think it depends massively on each person.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot. It depends on, if I'm filming an object or myself.
Yeah.
But I can't stop tweaking and slightly modifying. And I find every time I do some kind of, not necessarily grid, I kind of had one of those in my old space because I had wood ceilings so I could mount all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I found I always ended up changing it, and it was a big pain. So for me, it's casters, low footprint stands that are easy to move. But everyone's different. Like if you're a Gerald Undone, where like this is the way it's going to be for the next 100 videos. Then
it's
grid
different.
it up, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have the money to do like the Airy system, which is you have a grid, but everything's on those scissor things and they move on tracks.
Yep.
So you're basically coming off of the ceiling, but you can lower and raise your fixtures, and you can also move them exactly where you want. So I do know, yes, there are disadvantages. Benjamin saying C500 Mark II seems to be a good balance, and a used one can be had for about $11K in good condition. I think it's a great camera. I think it depends on what you're doing, but I personally would lean more towards looking at a couple of C70s right now than the C500 Mark II, especially because they have a speed booster for the C70. So you can still get that, full frame field of view out of the camera. And it has the dual gain, whatever the dual gain output feature on there. So you're essentially getting a mini C300 Mark III in the C70. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard call, but I'm probably not going for the C500 Mark II right now, even though I like it, because I'd love to have two matching cameras, and I could get two of those for the same price as the C500 Mark II.
Have you seen the knockoff scissor mounts?
No. Who makes those? You already got me going with the Pro Aim stuff last time, and I'm getting excited about that.
Jin Bay.
Jinne. Not Ginny. Not Jinne, like in Forrest Gump. Jinne. Hello, Jinne.
Message it
Not
to
that.
you and put it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Can I
Are you
post
putting
in the chat?
Yeah,
Let's
you
see if
should be
it'll
able
work.
to.
Going to B&H.
I think we've done it.
Here's
I don't know
an
if it'll
arm,
make a live link.
$124.
Okay. Send it
Which
to
is
me.
pretty cheap, I feel, for that. All right, I sent it on
Colin
in
said
the
we
chat.
should use our oldest cameras for the next episode of the show. Can I show a grid system? David, I will show a grid system when I build it. There's definitely going to be a video.
Do you have any videos on your old grid and psych and stuff?
I do, yeah.
Those up
yeah,
somewhere?
there's videos. I think they're still on the YouTube channel. There's some old videos.
Okay.
Whatever I could pull down and salvage. That's the name. It's called the Jinbei Pantograph.
Yeah, I shared the link, but I don't think YouTube's allowing it to go through.
Really?
If you just copy and paste that into B&H, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Actually, let me do that. I want to just look at it. I wonder if it lets me do it. I don't know. I don't know how that all works.
The rails are $16.
Shut up.
And then the arm they hold 11 pounds and they're $124 versus Aries, whatever.
Yeah, a little bit more than that. Oh, I see. 11-pound payload. Do they make something that allows you to slide it along? Do they have the rest of the system or not really?
If you just paste what I shared there into B&H, you'll see their rails.
Okay, so now I have to bookmark this, you bastard. What are you trying to do to me here? All right, well, more stuff to look at. Yeah, but these are great because you can put a light on there as long as it doesn't weigh more than 11 pounds. But do they have higher payload ones or not?
That I don't know. That's one name. I remember coming across this forever ago and finding these like Indian, like
yeah, I remember. Yeah,
It's kind of like the broke person's outlet. And that's just B&H. I'm sure there's other ones.
It's so cheap. Look at this ceiling rail system. Oh, forget this, man. You're killing me here. Baron said it looks like they have a 15-kilogram one for $175. So it looks like they have some other options for higher payloads. Okay. Which would be great because if you want to throw, a larger, like you're not going to throw a Gemini or even a 30C or something like that on there, the entire ceiling would come down when you attach it.
Gemini is gonna make like a junior stand kind of, much less one of these wussy looking scissors.
What are you doing? Yeah. Great. Okay, good. Well, that's great to
I think
talk
that's why
about.
people are so upset with me is most people have a wish list and they have to
Yeah.
wait to get an item on that wish list.
Yeah.
Whereas I find more affordable versions of everything.
Yeah.
That means everything is accessible,
Right.
within reason at once. So then people are like, God damn it.
Yeah.
There goes the next
There
3
goes
years
what-
worth of
Yeah.
Christmas gift fund.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to building out the space, and it's always fun creating that. And I think, again, the biggest piece of advice that I can give people when you're building out a space is don't rush. You have the tendency to just want to get it all done and have it finished, but there is so much to be said about taking your time and saying, "Oh, that's exactly right," and then going and watching a lot of videos, doing your research. And I've gotten so much better about that in the last 5 or 10 years of my life, especially the last few years, where I don't just impulse buy the same way I used to, and it makes a huge difference because you can really, even when you're building out a space and you make a decision, you can say, "Oh, I'll just get this," but then you have to step back and give yourself a week or two to think about what the long-term, ramifications of that decision are going to be, not just monetarily, but are you actually going to be able to work in that space effectively in there? So you just say, "Oh, throw a bunch of outlets up there," as opposed to thinking it out, talking it out with some people, getting more than one quote, thinking about and talking to your friends about stuff, and then realizing, well, I can't just have quad boxes coming off of the ceiling. But you start researching, and then you realize it should come down through conduit so it doesn't swing and it's fixed. And even if you're going to have an open grid system or an open ceiling, all those decisions are huge every single day when you walk in there. If you're going to put a grid up or you're going to have stuff sitting in the ceiling, get lots of outlets up there, but don't just put 10 quads up there and have a light switch that turns them all on and off. Create 3 or 4 sets of quads and have each one of those on its own light switch so that you can set up basically sections. And it's kind of like being able to create the areas of your space where you might be working in that day. You don't have to turn on all of your power at the same time, and you can build sections of your space. Bill, go refill that wine glass. I've used a magnet system in my mini studio for some time. So easy to hang up many items. Love to see some stuff, Roz, in the chat about what that magnet system is and who makes it, or it's cobbled together from different things. Would be great.
I think what you just said is brilliant, because I've made that mistake a billion times. Or I try to say or ask myself now before I set something up, how hard will it be to have to take this back down and change and, come up with at least 3 or 4 other solutions?
Yeah.
Because often you get the most excited about your first idea, but I've put many a hole in a wall or in a ceiling unnecessarily.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is the way, this is the solution. And then it's like, really shouldn't have done that. And the best feeling in the world is when you're like, oh, I need this. And you put it in your cart. And then you're like, you know what? Let me just hold off. And then you come up with a completely different solution that's like free or half the price. And you don't end up, because that's what sucks when you buy something. And then the day after your return window closes, you realize you really didn't need it.
Yep.
And
Which we've all done.
Sucks.
I mean, there's
100%.
plenty of equipment that just sits there and doesn't get any use. The other thing is that, I mean, I think it's sort of the way your space is kind of set up where you are. You're renting a space as opposed to me, where I'm probably going to be in the space pretty long term. So if I do some semi-permanent things to the space, then I probably won't have as many regrets. But it seems like a lot of the way you're building your space out is everything is very modular. So if for some reason 3 months or 3 years from now, you're like, I found a new space that's more ideal for what I'm doing. If you moved into that, 2,000 square foot space, it's not as if you're ripping things off of walls and pulling everything off of ceilings and all of that kind of stuff. And that's a huge thing. It's putting things on wheels and, being able to move it from one space to the other. I think that's also really important to think about. And modularity is a very smart way to think about building your space. It also allows you to reconfigure very easily, which is something that a lot of people don't think about. It's like, you walk into a room and it's going to become your bedroom, and you go, oh, the bed's going to be here. And then you don't think about where the dresser is going to be, and you put the dresser there, and then you run your cable, I've made these mistakes, to a certain place. And you're like, that's where it's always going to be. And 6 months later, you're like, that's the stupidest place to put the bed. And then you put the bed somewhere else, and then you have to rip the cables out. You have to completely reconfigure things. You have to patch up walls. So the more modular you can build a space, I think the better for stuff as well, ideally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Word.
Yeah. So what's your next big thing? Are you going to build something new, or are you building out a new studio, like a new standing set, or what's it going to be? Thanks, Roz.
Yeah, I'm kind of dialed in, I feel now. The main set, I'm very happy with that. So the one that, if you check my last 1 to 3 videos,
Yeah.
that kind of lighting setup, I'm really happy with that. I just need to get that gray that I put over the table. It's just a vinyl mat that I haven't affixed yet, because I always had a white table and the fill is just terrible. I hate that, so I need to cover that up. Happy with that. Happy with the B-roll set. It's just really fine tuning, what's long storage, what's close range storage. And then for us, it's going to be, I'm starting to dabble in manufacturing. So I'm going to do maybe 20 of those A10 mini cases and see how it goes. And
yeah, the new upgrades look amazing. It looks great. It's getting really tight in terms of the
really
look.
looking.
Yeah.
It's also very tight inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got 2 fans cooling everything. So we'll see how that goes. It's taking forever to get stuff from China, in bulk.
Yeah.
But if that goes well, then we might kind of expand more in this building. Where a very unique situation where there's room to grow here. Like a lot of people, like you have your house or a warehouse and that's it.
Yeah.
But here it's not a huge building, but I would say the total 5,000 square feet, 6,000 square feet. Half is occupied by the landlord, and then the rest is like various offices, and so there is room to maybe grow a little bit and set up like a little 3D printing farm, and then that would kind of tweak some of the stuff. So we'll see. But when it comes to the actual filming space, I'm really happy with that 1,000 square foot room where it has the main set and the kind of B-roll area. So, but I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with you've got a lot of room you could grow into.
Yeah, I do, and I think there's the way I'm building out the space. There's a big corner where what I'd love to do is build a corner cyc, and I'll probably more than likely paint that neutral gray to start with. To me, it's the most versatile background that you can have, and a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of people also do. But a middle or neutral gray is sort of the ideal throw color on, background, because it takes the color. So you throw blue onto it, it becomes blue. You put red on it, it becomes red, so on and so forth. You're not going to light a neutral gray background green and all of a sudden you have a green screen. So don't think of it that way. But in terms of creating color and, and mood, it's generally the best thing. And just like you said with the fill, when you have that white underneath you and it's just bouncing up, neutral gray is still going to bounce light. It's going to be neutral as long as light's not hitting it that's colored, and has color in it. But yeah, I think, the real decisions are going to be, do I build a couple of standing sets that are my live streaming setup and my, kind of directing setup, and then leave it just really open. I do want to put almost everything on wheels if I can. So I want to take the flats that are there and put everything on wheels. Because what I'd love to do is at minimum have like a 16-foot room, 16 by 16 or something similar to that, which is what I had before, like a big U shaped thing. But put that on wheels and then have different flats have a door or a window so that I can reconfigure them. And I would like to put latches on the back so that I can move them into different positions and say, this week this is going to play as a living room. And then next week this is going to become a bedroom. And then next week this could become a kitchen. I'd love to be able to do some stuff like that. And I'd love to be able to essentially skin the flats. So I could say, okay, the back is going to be a brick wall. But instead of just using a cheap brick wall backdrop and throwing it out of focus, I can basically put, like really short, that fake brick stuff onto there. And then take that off and then make it subway tile or make it something else. I don't know. That's I want it to be really modular. I want to be able to shoot lots of different things inside of there. So
that's really interesting to think about the problem solving with that.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking double-sided or just being able to reskin it?
I think single-sided, but I haven't thought enough yet to really figure out what that's going to be. Like, I know I want to be able to have that one standing set that's big enough that I can do lots of things in it, but it's small enough that I can get lights on the outside of it and light it from behind and above and things like that. I don't know. And that's really where a grid comes in handy, because then you don't have stands and things coming off of the ground, and you can basically place lights where you want in the grid, refocus them, and have them come into where you want them to come in. And then if you get the scissor thing that you were showing, then you can pull lights down if they can hold the weight, and you can say, I want something coming in from the window here, or you can turn it in the other direction and have a 4x bounce and then do something like that. So I don't know. I think that's what I'm excited about with that space, is it becomes a little bit of a, it's not a huge space, but 1,000 to 1,100 square feet lets you play enough that it becomes kind of a playground in terms of, being able to create and do things. So we'll see.
100%.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Just to answer Colin's question, where do you get the white/gray props that look like lights? Did you paint them yourself? Are you talking about like the 6 lights in the background and like the fake red camera that's spray painted white? The camera I 3D printed. You can find the files online, and then the light is trying to remember the name of it. It's like a knockoff Mole Richardson that I bought, and you can buy, of all things, what is it? eTrailer.com, I think, or something like that. I found these like perfectly sized, what look like Fresnel lenses that are plastic for like $1 a pop, and they fit perfectly in those circles on mole lights, like Fey lights with LEDs or whatever you want, and then just spray painted them all white. Because the fixture I got wasn't a mole. I would never spray paint a mole. That'd be wrong.
Yeah.
That magenta-y, creamy color must live on forever.
Yes.
But yeah, I'll try to remember the name of it. It's B something, Berkeley or something.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
Blue.
Pat says, what sort of furniture do you use for your editing area, or do you just do everything on a laptop wherever? I like to have...
definitely do a quick sidebar. We should do a desk setup, or just ideas when it comes to doing video at a desk, because I'm sure that could be a whole episode. But
yeah,
anyway,
and you have some great stuff for setups, but for me, I did post for the better part of I would say almost a decade, where I was sitting down at a desk every day and really killing my body. And at the end of the day, when I'm standing up, my feet really do hurt at the end of the day, and it's it's a lot. But working at a standing desk for me has been a lifesaver now that I'm back in front of a computer as much as I am, because I couldn't imagine doing it a different way. For me, as soon as I sit down for any extended period of time, that's when I start to get aches and pains and things, and I just don't have great posture to begin with. So standing up keeps me mobile, it keeps me moving. I find that I just feel better at the end of every day. And I don't have anything fancy. When the pandemic came around, I didn't have a standing desk. I just had one of those. I realize I'm not even on camera. I was doing a single there. I have one of those standing desks that sits. Well, you were talking about your lights and stuff. I have a standing desk that's you put on any surface and it's spring loaded. You can get like these lap desk things that'll hold a laptop computer and have some surface area. But it's really clunky and it wasn't a great solution. So I just went, yes, all Caleb all the time. I went to Home Depot and I got one of those Husky, manual standing desks, and it was, I don't know, a couple $100, $220, and it's great. I wish it went a little bit higher. I wish it was a little bit taller. It's not quite tall enough if you don't have something else to raise your computer up and things like that. But I like a standing desk, and I am a laptop person, so I do sometimes move around, but I do like a space that I can just walk into and work. Do you sit there and work when you're editing? Do you have just an edit station, or do you work and edit there and then sometimes edit from home, or how does that work for you when you do edit?
Yeah, for the first time in like 8 years, I got a laptop, the 16-inch, same one you have. Right? I think you have the newer than I have one.
Not much newer, yeah.
Yeah, but they like quietly updated it or whatever.
Yeah.
So I edit in the next room over, and that's my just office. And I decided I was not going to do cameras. I got so sick of this, all the stuff constantly surrounding me.
Yeah.
And then at home, I have a little setup as well where I used to do the stream, but it just gets so cluttered in there, and it's a tiny room.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Laptop, Thunderbolt monitor, and I keep it pretty chill. Nothing too special.
Yeah.
So white sit stand, but I never stand.
Yeah.
Because my knees and like feet hurt like crazy. My back sometimes too.
They do. They get. I mean, right now I'm feeling it, but it's still better for me all around. David's trying to get a first cousin price discount on those cases when they come out. I don't know what your decision will be on that, but we'll see what happens when you start releasing them. And rocking
Igor, what's going on, dude?
Yeah, rocking a refinished Husky workbench desk myself. Found it to be way more stable than most standing desks that wobble at the slightest touch. True?
Yeah. If you really get after the smaller versions with the hand crank, you'll feel it wobble a little bit. At least the little one I have.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out a nice drill mod so you can turn it into an electric desk.
Yeah.
Because you can buy a chuck or a
so Caleb to do that
3/8 to 1/4 inch or whatever, and just
Pat, you're not allowed to ask questions like that on the show. No, I'm just kidding. That they're not that deep. They make different ones, so I don't know. This one I'm gonna say
24 inches.
Yeah, I think it's 2 foot. I think this one's 2 foot depth. They might have ones that are slightly deeper. They are pretty solid wood on the top, and they have a couple of drawers. It's kind of amazing that it's only $220 for this thing, and you get a 10 or 20% off coupon, and you go and pick it up for $175. It's amazing, just ridiculous what you can get nowadays.
Definitely want a monitor arm, though. I would imagine
100%.
It's pretty claustrophobic to have your monitor sitting on the desk.
Yes, I did that initially. It's so much better. I have that setup that you recommended, which has the audio coming off from above, and it has the laptop up on the laptop stand, and I have a light coming off of there, and just getting that off of there and being able to move the computer closer to me, like this. So here's the computer right here, and then I can just move it back because of the way that it's set up. It's pretty huge, so it's made a big difference. Here we are. We're about to hit 4 o'clock, at least Pacific time, and I'm going to go reset for this thing called News Shooter Weekly. A guy named Paul Ream, who's out of England, really fascinating guy, also has a great YouTube channel. Gearhead, news, cameraman. First guy who, Tommy's coming in right at the last second.
Tommy boy.
Here he is. He's done some really cool stuff, but he actually shot. He started on the Sky News team as the head of the camera department, and he shot the first Sky News story ever in England. Because that was like very much like CNN. They started a 24-hour-a-day news channel, and so he has a really interesting history. But I just did all the tech tests and everything with him a few days ago, and he's just a really, really cool guy to talk to. He's been around for a long time. So I'm going to go reset for that. And Tommy just woke up. I don't know, kid, if that's true. But he probably turned on the light, and he was like, oh, my God, it's too bright. That's it. I think we're done. I feel like it's time. Caleb, love you, man. It's great.
Love you too.
Chatting.
Love you, chat. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, and let's hope that Ben gets back to the Czech Republic safely, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, and I don't know. It's going to be a lot quieter in the news now. That's for sure. So, see how it goes.
Definitely. Tommy says, thanks for having me. Been a good 25 seconds.
Just do a shot, Tommy. You'll be good. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Pat, Kit, everybody, digital filmmaker. Show your face one day. And, of course, just to let it go right at the end, the Grumpy Penguin. Cheers. Bye, everyone.